If you've drunk heavily or regularly for a long period of time and you've made a decision that you want to remove alcohol from your life, chances are that you carry some guilt or shame or worry about things that you did in the past. Maybe they're mistakes you made that you just want to move on from, but you feel like you can't let them go. In this video, I'm going to share some tips to allow you to find peace and to allow you to move on from any of those mistakes that you really want to forgive yourself for. Now, everybody makes mistakes. There's no human on earth who hasn't made mistakes, who hasn't done things that they regretted. Of course, when we drink, those mistakes can come often. We might find ourselves sending text messages to people that we really shouldn't be engaging with and then regret it. Or we might say things to family, friends, or people that we love that we wish we'd never said. There can be many things that we regret when we're drinking. And then as we move into an alcohol-free life, we feel that we just can't let go of those past mistakes. But know that everybody makes mistakes. It's part of the human experience. Nobody is perfect. And in fact, those mistakes are there to teach us lessons, to help us learn and to help us grow. So the first thing you should do is acknowledge the mistakes that you're hanging on to. Write them down in your journal. Get really clear about what they look like. Actually, when you write them down and you get them out of your head and down onto paper, they begin to lose some of their power. So the first step is to really acknowledge them. Get super clear on the mistakes that you're holding on to, that you want to find forgiveness for, that you want to find peace with. And once you've got them down on a piece of paper, look for the lessons in each of those mistakes. What did they teach you? And it can be hard to find the lesson in each mistake. One of the big things that I held on to for a long time was the way that I showed up as a dad for my son. I felt like alcohol was more important than anything else in my life, and I put it ahead of my son. There were times when he didn't know which version of me he was going to get. He felt unsafe being around me. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde character for him, and I carried a lot of regret about that, and I found it really hard to let go. And eventually, when I went through this exercise, I realized that the lesson it was teaching me was actually how to be a good dad. By being a bad dad, it was really obvious how to be a good dad. And that was to remove alcohol from my life, to show up as a consistent version of myself, to really listen to him and to put his needs ahead of my own. Not always, but most of the time. That was really, really important. So I took lessons from each and every one of the mistakes that I made that I was struggling to forgive myself for. And you can do exactly the same thing. So take some time to write it down. Write down the things that you're hanging on to and then look at what the lessons are in all of those things. You might find it hard to get to the root of them. If you're in my Stop Drinking program, these are the type of things that we can discuss on our weekly group Zoom calls. The website address is on the screen. You can join right now. There's regular live sessions where we discuss things like this and people can have breakthroughs and understand exactly what to do with things that they're holding on to. Another issue that people can find a challenge is when their inner critic comes up. We start thinking about these mistakes that we've made and we feel like we're not good enough and we're never going to move past it. That inner critic can be a noisy voice inside our head. Now, you might have heard me talking about bringing awareness to our thoughts by saying the word thought out loud when we find that our thinking brain has become activated and it's not serving us. We bring awareness to the thought and then we become able to bring ourselves back into the present. Well, just like that same process, you can do it with your inner critic. When your inner critic voice starts talking loudly in your head, you simply say out loud to yourself, critic, and you bring a conscious awareness to the fact that your inner critic has become activated. When you bring an awareness to it, you can bring yourself back to the present. And a great thing to do if you want to bring yourself right back to the present moment is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise, where you notice 5 things you can see that are around you in that moment, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. When you do that after you've acknowledged that your inner critic has started talking, you will immediately bring yourself back to the present because you're acknowledging what is around you in that very moment. And that can work whether you're having racing thoughts, full of anxiety, or whether you're dwelling on past mistakes that you haven't yet let go of. Give it a try. It really, really helps. The more you can bring yourself to the present moment, the more you're going to find that you're not in the future and you're not ruminating about things from the past, both of which can cause us to become anxious or can cause us to feel down about ourselves. It can also help to think about what you would say to a friend if they came to you with the same challenge that you're facing. If your friend came to you and said, I'm hanging on to a past mistake, I did something that I really regretted when I was drinking and I want to let go of it, but I just don't know how. What would you say to them? Well, start taking some of your own advice. Write it down in your journal, just like a conversation. Have that conversation with yourself as if you were your own best friend. And then listen to what you're saying, because that is most likely going to be the right advice and the advice that you should follow. And if you feel that you're not ready to let go of something yet, write it down. Write down what it is you're not yet ready to let go of, because it's important that you're not dwelling on it all the time. Place it in a box, a small box, and then put it somewhere safe. By doing this, you're essentially saying to yourself that you're going to let go of that. You're going to park it and come back to it when you feel ready. And it's a symbolic action that really, really works, because every time you then start thinking about that mistake or the problem that you've put in the box, you can just say to yourself that you've parked it, it's in the box, and it's ready for you to look at when you feel ready. So using that technique of putting the mistake in the box, putting the box somewhere safely, is not getting rid of it, it's not pushing it away, you're simply putting it to one side, ready for you to look at a time when you feel equipped and empowered and ready to come back to it again. But at the heart of all of this is kindness and compassion, not only to other people, but most importantly to ourselves. Think about your self-care routine. How do you look after yourself? Have you even mapped out a self-care routine? My self-care routine starts with a morning meditation. I always have breakfast. I try and walk in nature most days. I try and connect with other people socially at least once a day. I know that I need those things and I make sure that I get them. I tick it off in my journal on a daily basis because I know that they're needs that I need to meet in order to be kind to myself and to care for myself, because they make me feel good. They help me, and it's an important and essential part of my self-care routine. And you might find that you need other things. You might need a certain amount of sleep each night. You might like having a bath with candles every evening, or to eat your dinner at a certain time. But make sure you map out what it is you really need. And the way to get to your needs is by understanding your values. There's loads of lists of values that you can find online. And if you've got my book, How to Quit Alcohol in 50 Days, you'll find a big list of values in there too. Once you've decided what your 6 to 8 core values are, you can look at your life and you can see how it aligns with them. And more importantly, you can look at the aspects of your life that don't align with your values and then start making some really powerful changes to ensure that your life fits with your values. Because believe me, that is the path to suffering, when our life does not align with our values. So start to cultivate some kindness and some compassion for yourself, and know that it's okay to give yourself permission to forgive. And if you feel ready to let go of something, just like the exercise of placing the problem in a box or the mistake in the box, you can write out the mistake that you made or the problem you want to get rid of, and you can set fire to it, burn it and throw the ashes. Make it symbolic. Do it somewhere that's symbolic to the mistake if you feel it will help you. But do something that's symbolic to allow you to let go of it once and for all. But of course, you can only do this when you feel really ready to let go of that past mistake. Now, if you've moved on from past mistakes or you've managed to forgive yourself, leave a comment below. I would love to hear how you dealt with that. Maybe you found that once you quit alcohol, you were able just to move on from it because you felt calmer and you felt more peace in your life. Or maybe you used a particular technique. Well, please do share it and put it in the comments below. There's a video next to me that you can watch next. Click on it right now and you can start watching that right away. I'm sure you'll find it really helpful. And click on the subscribe button too, and you can become part of this amazing YouTube community. I'll see you again on the next video very, very soon.